everyone. Welcome to Keys to Quantum Awakening podcast. I am Ceirra from Awakened Heart Quantum Healing,
And I am Carrie from the Quantum Gypsy.
and together we make up Quantum Awakening. So today we will be discussing Tablet 2 and 3 of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, directly from the book, The Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, written by Billy Carson. So be sure to join our Patreon portal, which will be in the description, so that you can listen to other channelings that we do on higher information.
Yeah, and I thought it was really phenomenal. I mean, getting into the halls of Amenti in Tablet 2, which was chapter 4, when he talks about only free thinking individuals using their conscious thought can be capable of rising to a higher level of consciousness. So it's really showing and showcasing what we've been told a lot in channelings about this being such a free will planet. But you have to use that free will planet to gain those higher perspectives, which was pretty phenomenal to me because then what happens to some of those that, it brings a bigger perspective of some of those that are not awake during this time and it's in their contract to be not awake. It's like I'm toying with both ideas, understanding that.
Yeah, and I think what has been hard for a lot of people to wrap their mind around is this idea of free will. And we have to actually be at a higher level of consciousness so that we can even begin to experience free will. And I think that that's a lot of issues that people have been having is like, if we are at a lower consciousness, then did free will ever actually exist in this reality?
Okay, so I starred that to make sure that we take note to ask when we do our channeling later about this, because I think it's actually it'll be great to dive deeper into understanding this. I
Yeah,
think
I
that
absolutely would love to ask Thoth about how has Earth been considered to be a free will planet if you can't actually have your own free will until you reach a higher level of consciousness. So for anybody new to the podcast, we will also be channeling Thoth and we will be asking him our questions and how to apply these tablets in real life. So, how these tablets are actually relevant to our life now.
Right. So talking about the halls of Amenti, there's so many different things about this. Now, from what they're saying is that halls of Amenti is a place that you journey to once you become completely conscious and part of the application of the tablets and the wisdom, that you have to pass kind of these courses and these tests to be able to access the halls of Amenti. And when you're there, basically you can astral travel. It's a regeneration chamber from what I understand, and you can astral travel and have these different experiences in different consciousness within this construct of this reality. um what was most profound that you learned about the halls of Mente?
So, it was actually really interesting to me because I think that as a lot of light workers read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, I think reading about the halls of Amenti is actually very activating for people because if you're an extremely old soul coming into this life, then most likely in some sort of way, especially if you're used to the galactic realms, you've used the halls of Amenti before because the halls of Amenti is your access to higher realms. And so it's activating. It's almost like a way for light workers to remember that they have this access to higher realms just by reading about the halls of Amenti. And so that's what happened for me. So when I started reading about the halls of Amenti, I started having all of these memories of using the halls of Amenti in this lifetime and in past lifetimes. So to me, I do see the halls of Amenti as rejuvenation chambers, but also as a way to, if you had to come into this realm in a physical body and say you wanted to go to other realms within this construct, then you were able to actually leave your physical body in the halls of Amenti and you could go travel around other realms and your body, it was just a safe place to leave your body. while you either astral projected or you projected your consciousness into other realms of existence.
Right, because his body's like thousands of years old, right? Doesn't it say like he uh comes here, he's been here 10 times and then he goes and rejuvenates for like 100 years in the halls of Amenti, something like that. But it's like his body's pretty old.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of these was, from what I've seen, a lot of it was they would transfer from one body to another. So it wasn't even that he used the same body the entire time. And then I'll actually share my memories. We'll go over tablet 2 and 3, and then I'll share some of my actual memories.
Now they really go into the avatar projects that they're actually doing right now, and it confirms what the tablets are saying, that they're already applying this information of transference of consciousness from one physical body to another.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about what our reality is, we are all just avatar bodies, and our higher self is actually projecting our consciousness into us. So Bruce Lipton is actually somebody great to listen to because he was a researcher that discovered a lot of this work where each cell in our body has our own like radio dial that it picks up, and we're all tuned to a different frequency. And so that each cell in our body is picking up the same soul signature frequency of each of us. So that means that we really are just an avatar body being projected by our higher self.
And they do talk about that too, about being the holographic radio frequency in the book, which I think is really phenomenal. How much research for one Billy Carson does, and allows us to see the science along to back up what the tablets are saying. Um, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, the emergence theory, when they really talk about how past influences the future and future influences the past. Like you have to have one to have the other. And it's more or less like, I think we go into it later, cause and effect. You have to have the cause to have the effect, right? So it's just it really makes it easier to break down some of this stuff that we've been told in channelings, having the confirmation of the emerald tablets and what they're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why we're called to read the Kabbalion after this, because the Kabbalion really goes into how cause and effect is a law in the entire universe, so we can't escape. So we'll definitely get deeper into that later. I do think it's extremely important just understanding how every single action that we make will always lead to some kind of effect, because I think most people live their lives in the effect without ever thinking of what the cause was. And so I think that's actually something really important to be aware of. So when I say people live their lives in the effect, we get very wrapped up, I think, in daily life. And I think sometimes we forget that specific actions that we took led to where we are now. And so sometimes people may feel like the victim, or they don't understand how they could have attracted some kind of negative experience to them. And so it's really understanding how the past and how the past and the future are so intertwined with each other. And you can almost see it as cyclical instead of a straight line.
Yeah, and they talk about cycles, but I think also if you have a trauma in your life, which I think we all do, that you can become fight or flight and you're constantly focused on the effect. So the fear of the effect actually manifests the effect that you're not wanting to happen. And so it's just more or less about whatever your connection with cause and effective, it's more about taking a more conscious approach and being more empowered and using the understanding of knowing cause and effect and using it in, like they talk a lot about in the emerald tablets about there are laws, like there's no, like you cannot escape the laws, but what you can do is use the laws to use it as magic and to constantly use it through these realms. So it's like, how do you, in a more conscious, empowered state, understand cause effect to use as magic?
Yes, absolutely. And then the other part of the emergence theory that I loved because I personally connected with this so much is that our physical reality is expressed entirely through geometric language or coding by using symbolism. And why this is so profound for me is because since light language is my divine gift, I actually see a sacred geometry as I speak light language. So to me, it makes a sense that our entire reality is geometric.
Right. And that would be the existing with what he talks about extensively is the flower of life, the geometric shape and the circles, which I know we get into shapes and patterns later in the book about the difference between a circle and a angle. But we won't move too much forward. But the way that the flower of life and just that's the center of the core of our construct. They talk about this over and over in the book, is that they call it the flame, the internal flame. There's this internal flame that cannot be quenched by darkness. And basically, we talk about this all as time as light workers, but I think it just was so profound in how the tablets really what they're saying is like that flame can never be dimmed, right? Like in the fact that it goes out completely. Yes, darkness can be more great in our lives than the flame, but the flame always exists. And the only thing to do to really navigate is like we all have this internal north node of understanding like it's about facing the light and it's about only facing the light and not turning back around and looking at darkness. And it's not that the darkness doesn't exist. It's at some point when you're facing the light and moving towards it, you become such a big flame that you just naturally, you don't have to do anything other than that, but shine bright. You don't have to fight a battle. You don't have to like sit there and conquer anyone. All you have to do is follow your flame, follow the light, and it naturally will just alchemize the darkness. And I thought that was so beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that the flame is also representation of our spirit, that we are eternal beings. And when we truly trust and we understand that there's this beautiful flame within us that could never go out or it could never disintegrate, then that's when we understand that there was nothing to fear and we can just release this because it no longer serves us.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, found interesting about, well, they do go into how our DNA was manipulated. Like there was three groups that they said that were established in the beginning, but it was like talking about how we are walking, breathing database. We can store 1 trillion terabytes of data. So are we AI? Are we computers? What are we?
The coolest thing that I heard recently was I actually think it was from Billy Carson. They're starting to create microchips from water because water holds more information than any kind of metal. And so it's interesting if you think about how much water we're made up of, we can actually hold all of this information within us. And we've been told for so long that we have junk DNA, but that's not junk. Our bodies wouldn't create junk DNA for our evolution. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's your untapped potential. And we can tap into that when we start to raise our consciousness and we can decide what parts of our DNA we want to start activating.
I mean, would it be too much to activate it all at once? Turn me on. I think my board might fry if I do that. So I get why. I mean, you've heard of people having Kundalini awakenings that just like they they lose their sanity on this realm.
Yeah, and I think the reason why it's slowly activated is because it will just fry out our nervous system.
Yeah, until we really get to that place of just coming back to neutral, that's our constant go-to, or staying at a state of neutral. I think that's they probably address it, but I mean, I didn't realize that we were so on the etheric realm or whatever realm that they can see our energy, light bodies, that it's so apparent where we are. Like they can really see us and pay us on how much light we have in our system. And like, is that our aura or whatever that may be? But like, they talk about that a lot about you can really measure the amount of light someone has.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really cool. This is actually something that Joe Dispenza does at his events is he'll measure the aura of the person before his event. And then afterwards, it's so beautiful because that person is completely the light. The amount of light that they can shine after they've gone in and they've done their healing work and they've spent time working with their chakras and opening and balancing their bodies. It's so beautiful to see the transformation that you can make. And it's also just so exciting that people are starting to measure this. So we have actual valid representation of that these things are actually working and possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these ones that are down there, I guess in the halls of Mente, the elder brothers, the directors of destiny, it says that they really do direct what humanity needs for the evolution in this simulation. So it's like you have people down there and they're like, oh, that, I mean, I just visually don't understand it. And it's not meant, I guess, for me to understand at this point, but it's just to think of it on that perspective of like, there's like this whole orchestration, like we're just this symphony of life. And there's people down there and they're just directing the symphony, helping guide the experience, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and the halls of Amenti, it sounds like so the halls of Amenti, Thoth says this all the time that you have to go downward first, then to go upward. So the halls of Amenti, it's actually a physical place underneath the Egyptian pyramids. That's like the physical representation of it in this realm. There are more halls of Amenti around the world, but the most known one is the one in Egypt. But then we can also take our astral bodies there too. And when we take our astral bodies there, we go down into the halls of Menti, but then that's where we can gain different access to go up into the higher realms. So that's why they say all the time that you have to go down to go up, or why these dwellers, these masters of darkness, they have to go down, but then they actually go back up to the higher realms.
I mean, the dweller to me, the way it's kind of addressed, sounds like some of the things that maybe the Bible has taken as a play about other things like demons, because I think that they can be easily, because like they're in charge of the halls of the dead. I feel like some of this was taken and manipulated for humanity's story. Do you feel that way, or do you feel like the dweller is something different?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I actually want to ask Thoth is who is the dweller?
I already marked it for one of our questions. Because I'm like, it really sounds to me like not mythology, but maybe it was just misconstrued. Because I think the dweller does hold a place in like judging and, um, providing an experience because it's a reflection for the experiencer to measure where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Well, do you want to move into the tablet 3, the keys of wisdom?